WABC New York and 107.1 WLIR Hampton Bays.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Good morning. This is James Flippin filling in for Noam Laden as the 5 a.m. news hour rises again on this December 30th. It's Monday. Here's your Ramsey Mazda 3-day weather forecast to kick things off. Rainy skies around the tri-state this morning. Showers should start to taper off a bit here. Still, the rain has been heavy in various spots at times, and there's a steady temperature in our area right around 55 degrees. Later today, there will be about a 30% chance of rain, but it should start to dry out by mid-morning for the most part. And it'll be cloudy through then, gradually clearing. Look for it to be cooler tonight. The temperature will fall to around 50 by the evening rush, but still unseasonably warm, clearly. Tonight then into Tuesday, New Year's Eve, colder for sure, mostly clear overnight with a low near 38. Tomorrow, though, New Year's Eve, a 20% chance of rain, increasing cloud cover throughout the day tomorrow with a high near 51. New Year's Day, Wednesday, a chance of rain, mostly cloudy with a high near 49. 54 degrees right now in Midtown Manhattan, 56 degrees in Paramus, New Jersey, 55 in Patchogue on Long Island. And that's the weather forecast from the Ramsey Mazda Weather Center. So I hope everybody had a great weekend, sort of an extended time off for some people around the holidays. I got busy this weekend by getting a haircut. And happy Hanukkah, by the way, for all who celebrate as that continues through January 2nd, although I'm constantly told that as a Gentile, I don't understand. Hanukkah is more of a historical note than a true holiday, so I'm going to try to make that distinction there. But I hope everybody had a good, relaxing weekend. Maybe it was busy with family and friends. Either way, a holiday-shortened week for some in the listening audience. I'll be in for Noam until Thursday as he's completing a Southeast U.S. odyssey. So I had to get my errands done over the weekend. One of them, like I said, getting a haircut. Now, I vowed not to pay for haircuts anymore because I'm follically challenged. It doesn't really make much sense to pay for a cut when you don't have that much hair on your head, but I go to one franchise haircut spot, no free advertising, but it still costs $25 plus tip. And I more or less went because of the mess and the hair that you cut. It falls on the floor in the bathroom. Who wants to clean that up? Get it in the sink and on the vanity there. But $25 plus tip, just because I don't want to make a mess with hair, that's a bad reason for a haircut, I think. And so I saw a video where the guy has kind of the vacuum cleaner right up against the buzzer, like more or less clipped onto the buzzer, kind of get the hair while you cut it. I don't know if I'm that clever, though. Maybe I could just do it outside. It's just hair, right? It's going to blow all over the place. Anyway, that kind of preparation, what I did this weekend, New Year's Eve prep in full swing, just a few blocks away from where I'm sitting right now in Times Square. Crews making their final preparations for the big celebration. Millions of people set to hit the area tomorrow to help ring in 2025. And producers ran a confetti test in the area yesterday to make sure everything will go off without a hitch when that midnight time comes, and some 3,000 pounds of confetti set to fall on Times Square when the ball drops tomorrow night. And for anybody who's looking to catch the New Year's Eve ball drop in person, well, you're going to have to deal with the potential for cold, rain, long waits outside, and the inability to go to the bathroom, by the way. I always thought that was kind of brutal. Once you get into those pens there waiting for the ball to drop, you don't have the ability to go to the bathroom. I think I used to hear about some people wearing diapers back in the day. But you do have some expensive options at your disposal if you don't want to go stand in Times Square. The deep-pocketed among us can catch the ball drop from the 8th floor terrace of the Marriott Marquis in Times Square. That'll cost you a whopping $7,500 a person. It does come with an open bar and buffet. There's a few other options scattered throughout Times Square in that general price range. For those looking for something a bit more reasonable, you could catch the ball drop from Applebee's. The chain's locations allowing you to reserve tables with an open bar, buffet, and live DJ starting at $730 a person. Despite the prices, tickets for most venues are selling fast. And Saturday was good riddance day to 2024 there in Times Square. Oh, gonna have to put the level up. Hold on. Stand by.
I'm over 2024. I'm over everything.
It just has been an intense year, but good.
I don't remember this year. It was just a year. It just went by kind of fast. I give it a 7. It was all right. I'm ready for 2025, though. Ready for new things, new experiences, new doors to open.
And Americans are making their New Year's resolutions as the clock winds down on 2024. According to a new poll from Statista, saving money tops the list for 2025. Other popular resolutions include eating healthier, exercising more, losing weight, and spending more time with family and friends. 43% of those taking part in the survey say they're not making any resolutions in the new year. So the big story here, we'll be talking about it all morning, all day, really, as former President Jimmy Carter has died at the age of 100, the first president to reach the centennial milestone.
Jimmy Carter has died. The Democrat from Georgia served in the White House from 1977 to 1981. He was in the Navy, then took over his father's peanut farm in the 1950s. The Department of Energy and the Department of Education were formed under his administration, and he was known for being a proponent of conservation. In an interview about his 2015 memoir, A Full Life, Carter talked about America and what it could be.
America has a potential of being great in every way, and I would like to see the United States of America known around the world in every country as a champion of human rights and a champion of peace.
His wife Rosalind passed away in 2023. Jimmy Carter was 100 years old. I'm Jack Crumley.
And Carter spent 2 years in hospice care. Overnight, the Empire State Building here in Manhattan was lit up in red, white, and blue in the former president's honor. And January 9th is being declared a national day of mourning in honor of Carter. President Biden made that declaration following the former president's death on Sunday, and Biden called on Americans to assemble in their respective places of worship on that day to pay homage to the memory of the nation's 39th president. Biden also ordered U.S. flags to be flown at half-staff. That order will be observed for 30 days, including Inauguration Day. Local leaders responding to Carter's passing, Governor Kathy Hochul says Carter embodied decency and integrity throughout his life of public service. The governor is saying she'll never forget meeting Carter in Buffalo when she was a teenager, adding that he was an inspiration for her. New York City Mayor Eric Adams called Carter a true public servant, and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said Carter personified the true meaning of leadership through service, through compassion, and through integrity. Plenty more to tell you about in terms of the reaction to Carter's death, both from local officials and the legacy that he, of course, built, not just as president, but years spent with Habitat for Humanity and also focusing on other aspects of defending human rights. Congress starts work later this week, both chambers in session for the first time in the new year. The first order of business in the House will be picking a new speaker, and Kentucky Representative James Comer says President-elect Trump should throw his support behind incumbent Speaker Mike Johnson to avoid a lengthy election process.
All this is going to do is delay us. It's going to delay the certification of President Trump's election. It's going to delay the start of his first 100 days in office.
It's unclear if Speaker Johnson will have enough votes to hang on to the gavel, given the current GOP infighting on current issues. Some issues, I should say. Swearing in of the 119th Congress set for January 3rd, January 6th. Lawmakers will convene to count each state's electoral votes, with Vice President Kamala Harris announcing the official results. Over the weekend, a horrific plane crash in South Korea left 179 people dead. The passenger jet crashed while landing at Muan International Airport in the southern part of South Korea. And it's looking like the airliner that was arriving from Bangkok early Sunday may have dealt with a bird strike. At any rate, the landing gear failed. That's when it did crash after sort of skidding off the runway and bursting into flames. Just 2 people survived, crew members. And South Korean officials do say it's likely a bird strike that triggered a deadly chain of events leading to the disaster. The NTSB and a team from Boeing will be among the aviation experts assisting the investigation. South Korea declaring a national period of mourning for the victims and their families until January 4th.
You can see the moment when this plane comes in for a landing and it's just skidding along the runway after its landing gear apparently failed before it crashes into the wall and erupts into this massive fireball. We're talking about a full flight here with 181 people when it crashed into a barrier wall at the end of the runway there. Investigators are searching for answers, but officials are saying that it could take between 6 months to 3 years to complete a full investigation.
And that's Megan Fitzgerald reporting graphic video of the crash showing the final moments leading up to the disaster. President Biden has released a statement on that devastating plane crash, saying as close allies, the American people share deep bonds of friendship with the South Korean people, and our thoughts and prayers are with those impacted by this tragedy. We're going to talk more about South Korea's worst domestic civil aviation disaster. We're talking a lot about the passing of President Jimmy Carter today. President Biden has offered to provide any necessary assistance in that South Korean plane crash. It could take weeks to get data from the plane's black boxes, which have been recovered. The Jeju Air flight from Bangkok was carrying 181 people when it skidded off the runway and crashed into a barrier, bursting into flames. 2 people rescued, 179 killed. Reports, like we said earlier, of a potential bird strike or bad weather contributing. Flight and voice recorders recovered. The flight recorder was damaged. Officials saying it could take up to a month before there's any real usable data here. The Guardian Angels will be patrolling the subways again for the first time in years. The group says it's resuming patrols about a week after a sleeping woman, believed to have been homeless, was set on fire on a Brooklyn F train. And also days after a 67-year-old man, also believed to be homeless, was found on fire in Penn Station. The Guardian Angels will have 3-person teams walking the trains. 77 WABC's own Curtis Sliwa, the founder of the Guardian Angels, spoke to the New York Post.
Well, in day and night patrols, 3-person patrols, we're all together. We're walking through the cars, which is something the police no longer do. Notice there are no mental health workers, there are no crisis intervention. They have all these fancy names. I never see them. And we spend millions of dollars on my day.
And Sliwa explaining what they're going to be doing while on patrol.
Our job is, A, do a wellness check on a homeless person. If they're homeless or emotionally disturbed, see if they're okay. If all of a sudden we walk into a situation where there's an episode, which oftentimes happens, we have to calm it down.
Yeah, Curtis says the red beret, the red jacket, they make a difference here.
A lot of times, these homeless and emotionally disturbed persons, they know of the Guardian Angels. We can have a calming effect. We can also bring the situation to the attention of cops on the platform. If there are cops, you're going to probably see them on the platforms. Generally, that's why we always stick our heads out at the station, and we always check to the north, to the south. If there are any police officers, we would hold the door open.
But if you've heard of the Daniel Penny effect, there's the thought that people on the subway trains just aren't going to get involved these days if they see people in trouble or something that might be wrong. Well, I promised that Curtis explained.
Citizens won't do that because, unfortunately, the Daniel Penny effect has frozen them. They're not going to get involved. I've seen grown men who normally might have gotten involved. They're just not getting involved any longer. We train. This is what we do. We know how to do it. And we'll coordinate it once we get on the train with the conductor, who obviously has more freedom than the motorman, but we'll obviously make sure that that train is stopped and that the police respond and that we keep order in the car so that nobody gets hurt, including the emotionally disturbed person or the homeless person.
So you'll hear us talking about this, I'm sure, and Curtis will give you his thoughts on this as he continues to expound on the subway issues here on 77 WABC. And the Guardian Angels will conduct wellness checks and provide water for the homeless, as that dehydration for people who live in the subway, often a major factor in terms of contributing to mental health issues. The Guardian Angels looking for the emotionally disturbed and, as you heard, will report issues to the NYPD. WABC News Time coming up on 5:16 this Monday morning, and it's time to check in on the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Well, it may have taken until Week 17, but the Giants finally collected their first win at home, upsetting the Indianapolis Colts 45-33 at MetLife Stadium yesterday. Drew Lock completed 17 of 23 passes for 309 yards and 4 touchdowns, in addition to a rushing score. Malik Neighbors caught 7 passes for 171 yards and 2 touchdowns. Wandale Robinson and Darius Slayton also hauled in touchdowns. Indianapolis has been eliminated from postseason contention. The Jets were blown out by the Bills 40-14 in Orchard Park. And as of all that, the New England Patriots now in line to receive the first overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. The Giants in line to have the 4th overall pick. The Jets would pick 7th if the season ended today. And last night, the Washington Commanders clinched a playoff spot with a 30-24 overtime win over the Falcons. Rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels accounted for 3 touchdowns for Washington and 127 yards rushing. Saquon Barkley with the Philadelphia Eagles writing his name into the NFL history books. He went over 2,000 yards rushing yesterday on the season in the Eagles' blowout win over the Cowboys. Barkley just 101 yards away from breaking Eric Dickerson's single-season rushing record of 2,105 yards, and he'll have a chance to do that against his former team when Philly hosts the Giants in the regular season finale next Sunday. On the ice, Pittsburgh Penguins legend Sidney Crosby just broke Mario Lemieux's franchise record for assists during yesterday's win over the Islanders. And by the way, tonight the Rangers take on the defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers in South Florida. On the hardwood, the Nets fell to the Magic in Orlando, 102-101. Brooklyn has also picked up former net D'Angelo Russell in a trade with the L.A. Lakers. The 28-year-old returning to Brooklyn, where he spent the 2018 and 2019 seasons. The Knicks will try to stay red hot tonight. New York looking to extend its winning streak to 8 games when it visits the Washington Wizards in D.C. And that's sports from the 77 WABC Sports Desk. So before we got into sports and traffic, we were chatting about the issues within the subway right now. And that 67-year-old homeless man, still recovering from burns, he was found on fire Friday night at Penn Station. Police found the man at around 8 o'clock near the entrance to the 1, 2, and 3 subway after they were alerted by a passerby. The guy suffered burns to both legs and his upper body. He's hospitalized in stable condition. The New York Post reports the man told cops he was sleeping and woke up on fire. It remains unclear how the fire started or if criminal activity was involved. There are no surveillance cameras in the area where the man was found, and there were no reports of anybody leaving the scene of the fire. It sounds like it is possible the guy actually set himself on fire.
The 67-year-old homeless man says he woke up on fire Friday night by the 1, 2, and 3 trains and claims that someone else did it. The New York Post reports that sources tied to the NYPD and MTA say there is no evidence that another person was involved. There are no security cameras at the area where the incident took place. However, nobody was seen leaving that area. This comes after another recent arson incident that happened last weekend in Brooklyn, where a man is accused of setting a sleeping woman on fire and killing her. I'm Liz Radabali for 77 WABC News.
And largely as a result of that deadly fire within the subway, we told you the Guardian Angels resuming their subway patrols. Yesterday, a person was stabbed in the arm on an L train, now in stable condition. More seriously, a teen was stabbed 5 times with a screwdriver, leaving him critical in Brooklyn. Cops searching for multiple teenagers as that victim fights for his life. Police say it happened just before 7 o'clock last night at the intersection of Carroll Street and Rochester Ave in Crown Heights. And that's where the 16-year-old male victim was found stabbed multiple times throughout the body. Taken to a local hospital, he remains in critical condition. And sources say police are looking for multiple teenage suspects, a screwdriver found at the scene, per reports, believed to be the weapon used. WABC News Time, 5:22. James Flippin filling in for Noam Laden this morning on the 5 a.m. News Hour. A Long Island man is under arrest, charged in the fatal stabbing of his mother on Christmas Eve. 57-year-old Josefina Ramirez Montero stabbed multiple times in the chest and abdomen, allegedly by her 27-year-old son. Nassau County cops say Jeremy Ramirez had just returned home around 7 o'clock Tuesday night from a trip to the laundromat, and that's when the alleged attack took place. His mother at home making dinner at the time. Police say it's not known what led to the attack, but they say that Jeremy Ramirez has a violent history, a record of arrests going back to 2018 on charges including attempted murder, gang assault, and robbery. Nassau County police have arrested 3 teenagers for allegedly robbing a cab driver in Westbury. Police say the 72-year-old cabbie was dropping off the teens between the ages of 13 and 15 at an address on Old Country Road when one of them allegedly pulled what appeared to be a gun and stole cash from the driver's pocket. The three fled. They were captured nearby a short time later. Two of the suspects face robbery and other charges. The third, just 13 years old, charged with weapons possession. It does sound like it was an imitation pistol that was used during that crime. Out on the east end of Long Island, the Suffolk County District Attorney launching an investigation into allegations that Honey the bear was abused at a New York animal sanctuary. The claims brought by animal rights advocates and former staffers at Holtzville Ecology Center on Long Island. Honey, a 28-year-old bear, was the star attraction at the state licensed facility, which is a refuge for 100 sick or injured animals that can't survive on their own. Ex-employees claim Honey and other animals aren't getting proper veterinary care at the taxpayer-funded sanctuary. The bear was euthanized last month after suffering a debilitating stroke, but was also afflicted by rotting teeth and chronic infections. Flu season is picking up after what was considered a slow start this winter.
Data from the CDC found that positive tests went up by 12% for the week ending December 21st compared to the week before. Over 12,000 people were hospitalized from the virus. Flu activity typically starts to pick up about Halloween, but this year activity just started picking up in recent weeks. The CDC says flu activity was highest in Louisiana and Oregon for the week ending December 20th. Activity was also high along the West Coast and throughout the South. I'm Chris Caraccio.
Down in Florida, authorities say 15 people are hurt after a passenger train collided with a fire truck in Delray Beach. Officials say the crash occurred around 11 a.m. Saturday morning, injuring 3 firefighters and 12 passengers. Images on social media show the mangled fire truck beside the train tracks and the front engine of the train smashed in. The cause of the crash under investigation. The fatal beating of New York inmate Robert Brooks is now under federal investigation. Attorney General Letitia James released body cam footage of the attack Friday, which shows multiple corrections officers beating Brooks while he's handcuffed on an infirmary table. James made the video public Friday, calling the footage shocking and disturbing. Because the cameras were in standby mode, there is no sound, just the images. Brooks died one day later as a result of his injuries. Now the FBI reviewing the incident to determine the appropriate federal response. New York Governor Kathy Hochul ordering the State Department of Corrections to begin firing 14 workers at the facility where the incident occurred. A former top cop with the NYPD is trying to clear his name after his recent sudden resignation.
Former Chief of Department Jeffrey Madry was accused of quid pro quo sexual misconduct by Lieutenant Quithisha Epps. She claims Madry would make sexual demands in exchange for overtime. Madry told NBC4 New York that the two did have a relationship, but it was consensual.
That's all it was an office.
Consensual relationship, you're saying?
Absolutely. We had got together a couple of times. There was really nothing to it. There was no romance. We weren't girlfriend and boyfriend. We had an office fling, and that's all it was.
Madry did admit it was inappropriate nonetheless, and that was the reason for his resignation. I'm Liz Radabali for 77 WABC News.
One of the big stories here today, the passing of former President Jimmy Carter at the age of 100, the only U.S. president to reach that age 100 milestone. And we're going to talk a lot about what the local officials are saying about him, his legacy, and how different tributes for former President Carter are pouring in. But first here at 5:27 on Monday morning, James Flippin with you here on this Monday morning. It's December 30th. So local officials providing their memories and tributes to former President Jimmy Carter. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries has expressed his thanks for Carter's legacy and leadership, adding that Carter was a great man, a great role model, and a great humanitarian. Governor Phil Murphy calling Carter a man whose tremendous faith was equaled by his sense of moral courage and purpose. Senator Cory Booker says the value Carter epitomized the most was radical love. Former president and his wife, Mrs. Carter, worked for Habitat for Humanity in communities throughout Georgia and globally for nearly 40 years.
In 1984, Jimmy and Rosalind Carter created the Carter Work Project, working alongside volunteers with Habitat for Humanity, building and advocating for affordable housing. It was an experience that fulfilled the couple.
Every time we've ever been out as volunteers, leading a project, no matter where it's been, either in this country and around the rest of the world, at the end of the Habitat project, we always feel that Rose and I got more out of it than we put into it.
The former president once said Habitat provides a simple but powerful avenue for people of different backgrounds to come together to achieve those most meaningful things in life. A decent home, but also a genuine bond with our fellow human beings. I'm Liz Kennedy.
And Rosalind Carter, predeceased Carter. The NFL took a moment to honor the former president last night. The Football League held a moment of silence before the Sunday night football game between the Atlanta Falcons and Washington Commanders. The primetime game in D.C. marked a matchup between Carter's home state team, the Falcons, and the team from the nation's capital, the Commanders. In a statement, Falcons owner Arthur Blank called Carter a great American, a proud Georgian, and an inspirational global humanitarian. During his time in office, Carter did become the first president to host a Super Bowl winning team when the Pittsburgh Steelers visited the White House in 1980. Still a lot to do with the passing of Carter. We're going to hear from President Biden as he sends his gratitude and thanks to the late former president. And also the ongoing debate amongst conservatives and some MAGA supporters regarding the H-1B immigration visa. We'll hear from a Democrat on that program and more on what the Guardian Angels plan to do along the New York City subways. It's WABC 5 a.m. News Hour coming up on 5:31. James Flippin in for Noam Laden.
The 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
On 77 WABC.
Good morning, James Flippin filling in for Noam Laden on this December 30th. It's Monday, and here is your Ramsey Mazda 3-day weather forecast. Rainy skies around the tri-state this morning. Showers should start to taper off a bit here. Still, the rain has been heavy in various spots at times. There's a steady temperature in our area, right around 55 degrees. Later today, a 30% chance of rain, but it should start to dry out by mid-morning for the most part. And then cloudy, gradually clear. Look for it to be cooler tonight. The temperature falling to around 50 by the evening rush. Still unseasonably warm, I should say. Tonight, then, into Tuesday, colder for sure, mostly clear, a low near 38. Tomorrow, New Year's Eve, a 20% chance of rain, increasing cloud cover throughout the day, a high near 51. New Year's Day, Wednesday, a chance of rain, mostly cloudy, with a high near 49. 54 right now in Midtown, 56 in Paramus, New Jersey, 55 in Patchogue on Long Island. And that's the weather forecast from the Ramsey Mazda Weather Center. President Biden is paying tribute to former President Jimmy Carter, speaking from the U.S. Virgin Island of St. Croix yesterday, where he is on vacation. President Biden said that all around the world feel like they've lost a friend, referring to Carter as a man of the people.
Today, America and the world, in my view, lost a remarkable leader. He was a statesman and humanitarian. He forged peace, advanced civil rights, human rights, promoted free and fair elections around the world. He built housing and homeless for the homeless with his own hands. Can you imagine Jimmy Carter walking by someone who needs something and just keep walking? Can you imagine Jimmy Carter referring to someone by the way they look or the way they talk? I can't.
Biden said Carter embodied the most fundamental human values that everyone respects. Biden adding one of his fondest memories of the late president was the time he endorsed him for president while Biden was a Delaware senator decades ago, saying they spent a lot of time together during that period.
I've been hanging out with Jimmy Carter for over 50 years, it dawned on me. And I had countless conversations over those years. I always would be proud to say that he used to kid me about it, that I was the first national figure to endorse him in 1976 when he ran for president.
Biden says he's spoken to the Carter family at this point and notes that funeral plans are underway. After his presidency, Jimmy Carter went on to become an active humanitarian.
The 39th President of the United States and the winner of the 2002 Nobel Peace Prize died at his home Sunday, months after entering hospice care. Chip Carter wrote that his father was a hero to everyone who believes in peace, human rights, and unselfish love. Carter's wife, Rosalind, to whom he was married for 77 years, died last year. There will be public observances in Atlanta and Washington, a private burial in Plains, Georgia, while plans for a state funeral are still pending. I'm Rory O'Neill.
Democratic Representative Ro Khanna is defending the H-1B immigration visa program as a debate rages over whether it steals American jobs. The California congressman telling Fox News Sunday that while the program could be reformed, there are better ways to bring back jobs in the U.S.
You want to bring back new jobs, you need to have the investment in reindustrialization of America in places left out, and that's what we should be talking about. The real challenge in America is how did we lose steel? How did we lose aluminum? How did we allow for deindustrialization?
Khanna saying the visa program attracts highly skilled workers that, in his view, benefit the American economy.
But one of the points that I think Elon and others are making is what makes America as exceptional is that we are a magnet for the world's talent.
And he went on to say that politicians should be discussing bringing manufacturing jobs back. In recent days, including part of last week, many of President-elect Trump's political allies have been fiercely debating H-1B visas. Some say the program allows foreigners to take American jobs. Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy argue that the visa program benefits the country. Trump seems to agree, saying it is a great program, although he put restrictions on it during his first presidency. Back in New York, the Guardian Angels are back on subway trains to keep an eye out for crime and people who need help.
Founder and 77 WABC host Curtis Lewa says the move is directly in response to last weekend's arson incident where a man set a sleeping woman on fire. That woman died due to smoke inhalation and has yet to be identified.
We keep order in the car so that nobody gets hurt, including the emotionally disturbed person or the homeless person.
The group will deploy teams of 3 to walk the trains and perform wellness checks, hand out water bottles, and, of course, report anything serious to the NYPD. Meanwhile, the man accused in that deadly subway arson attack, Sebastian Zepeda, will be arraigned on state murder charges on January 7th. I'm Liz Radabali for 77 WABC News.
And it's believed the victim of that horrific subway burning could have been homeless. A new report shows that homelessness surged in the U.S. this year. More now from Washington. Well, Scott Carr is going to come with it any second, I promise.
New data from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development shows the number of people experiencing homelessness shot up by 18% in 2024. They report across the U.S. an average of more than 771,800 people lived without housing. That's according to a count conducted annually, taken on a single night in January. While family homelessness saw a major jump, they report up 39% this year compared to last year. The agency reports the number of homeless veterans fell by 8% this year compared to 2023. I'm Scott Carr in Washington.
WABC News Time, 5:39. One person is dead in southeast Texas. At least 4 others are injured after a tornado ripped through.
Authorities in Brazoria County, south of Houston, say Saturday's twister also damaged homes and vehicles across the region. The Brazoria County Sheriff's Office says there were reports of at least 10 buildings, including a school, that were struck by tornado winds. Tornadoes were also confirmed Saturday in Chambers, Galveston, Montgomery, and Waller counties in the Houston area. I'm Jim Forbes.
And the oldest survivor of the attack on Pearl Harbor has died.
Warren Upton passed away on Christmas Day at the age of 105. A spokesperson for the Sons and Daughters of Pearl Harbor Survivors organization said Upton was a very humble, gentle, soft-spoken man who never considered himself a hero. Upton was also the last living survivor from the USS Utah, one of the 7 ships that sank during the attack on December 7, 1941. Upton has requested to be buried side by side with his late wife Valeria Parker instead of being interred within the USS Utah's wreckage, a tradition among Pearl Harbor survivors. I'm Chris Coraggio.
Out in California, Linda Lavin, a Tony-winning actress and 70s sitcom icon, has died.
She was just passing through, but if things work out, she's gonna stay.
The 87-year-old passed away yesterday at her home in L.A. from recently discovered lung cancer. Lavin enjoyed a long career in Broadway, starting in the 1960s, and appeared on the small screen in shows like Barney Miller before taking on the title role in Alice, a show about a widowed mom working at a diner in Arizona. That show ran for 9 seasons through 1985. And Lavin was inducted into the Theater Hall of Fame in 2011. We're talking all day here about former President Jimmy Carter's passing. The president passed away yesterday at the age of 100.
News of the former president's death came from his son, who confirmed that Jimmy Carter died at his home in Plains, Georgia, where he had been in hospice care. As a young man, Carter served in the Navy, later managing the family's peanut farm, then getting into politics. He was elected governor of Georgia and then, in 1976, president of the United States, defeating Gerald Ford. Voters would turn Carter out after one term in office, a term plagued by an oil crisis, high inflation, and a hostage crisis. In retirement, Carter remained active in his church and in charitable work with Habitat for Humanity. Jimmy Carter was 100. I'm Rory O'Neill.
Carter beat the incumbent President Gerald Ford in the 1976 election and thanked the nation during his inauguration.
You have given me a great responsibility to stay close to you, to be worthy of you, and to exemplify what you are.
Carter's campaign initially focused on regaining the trust of the American people after Richard Nixon had resigned following the Watergate scandal, and some of the challenges that Carter's administration faced included a fuel shortage, high gas prices, the Iran hostage crisis, and a struggle with economic problems. After his presidency, Carter went on to become an active humanitarian, devoting a lot of time to Habitat for Humanity. But many people might not know that before Carter was president, he was a naval officer, a nuclear engineer, and back in 1952, a nuclear research facility in Canada suffered a partial meltdown, leaving more than 1 million gallons of contaminated radioactive wastewater flooding the basement. Officials brought in Carter, one of the few people with the clearance and knowledge to deal with that kind of disaster. After some intense training, he was physically lowered into the reactor and helped avert further disaster. Years later, in 1969, Carter said he saw a UFO along with nearly a dozen other members of the Leary, Georgia Lions Club. He described the object as a ball of light that changed color and brightness over the course of several minutes. Said he never did find out what that object was, but noted it was near a large military base and that his fellow club members thought it was some kind of device being tested. Federal lawmakers get back to work later this week with both chambers of Congress in session for the first time in the new year.
Swearing in of the 119th Congress is set for January 3rd, and the first order of business in the House will be picking a new speaker. It's unclear if Mike Johnson will have enough votes as the new Trump administration kicks off. On January 6th, lawmakers will convene to count each state's electoral votes, with Vice President Kamala Harris announcing the official results. I'm Lisa Carton.
Shohei Ohtani can add another title to 2024 National League MVP and World Series champion, Dad. Ohtani and his wife, expecting their first child, the LA Dodgers star, announced the news on Instagram this weekend, writing, "Can't wait for the little rookie to join our family soon." And now more on the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Well, it may have taken until Week 17, but the Giants finally collected their first win at home, upsetting the Indianapolis Colts 45-33 at MetLife Stadium yesterday. Drew Lock completed 17 of 23 passes for 309 yards and 4 touchdowns, in addition to a rushing score. Malik Neighbors caught 7 passes for 171 yards and 2 touchdowns. Wan'Dale Robinson and Darius Slayton also hauled in touchdowns. Indianapolis has been eliminated from postseason contention. The Jets were blown out by the Bills 40-14 in Orchard Park. And as of all that, the New England Patriots now in line to receive the first overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. The Giants in line to have the 4th overall pick. The Jets would pick 7th if the season ended today. And last night, the Washington Commanders clinched a playoff spot with a 30-24 overtime win over the Falcons. Rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels accounted for 3 touchdowns for Washington and 127 yards rushing. Saquon Barkley with the Philadelphia Eagles writing his name into the NFL history books. He went over 2,000 yards rushing yesterday on the season in the Eagles' blowout win over the Cowboys. Barkley just 101 yards away from breaking Eric Dickerson's single-season rushing record of 2,105 yards, and he'll have a chance to do that against his former team when Philly hosts the Giants in the regular season finale next Sunday. On the ice, Pittsburgh Penguins legend Sidney Crosby just broke Mario Lemieux's franchise record for assists during yesterday's win over the Islanders. And by the way, tonight the Rangers take on the defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers in South Florida. On the hardwood, the Nets fell to the Magic in Orlando, 102-101. Brooklyn has also picked up former net D'Angelo Russell in a trade with the LA Lakers. The 28-year-old returning to Brooklyn, where he spent the 2018 and 2019 seasons. The Knicks will try to stay red hot tonight. New York looking to extend its winning streak to 8 games when it visits the Washington Wizards in D.C. And that's the latest from the 77 WABC Sports Desk. The black boxes from the South Korea plane that crashed yesterday have been recovered. Officials say it could take weeks to get data from the black boxes. 2 people were rescued, but 179 were killed. Coming up on just 10 minutes before the top of the hour, it's James Flippin filling in for Noam Layden. In financial news, we've got some economic data coming your way today. Pending home sales for November are due to be published tomorrow. You'll get the S&P Case-Shiller Home Price Index. Market's going to be closed Wednesday for New Year's Day. Weekly jobless claims and construction spending due Thursday. And rather than being released on the first Friday of the month as usual, the next monthly jobs report not due until January 10th. Police in Chile say they've discovered 3 watches belonging to actor Keanu Reeves. The watches, which include a $9,000 Rolex, were stolen from Reeves' Los Angeles home in 2023. They were recovered during a police raid linked to a string of local robberies. A 21-year-old man in custody. It's an annual year-end tradition that started in 2007.
New Yorkers are getting rid of their unwanted memories from 2024.
I'm over 2024. I'm over everything. It just has been an intense year, but good. I don't remember this year. It was just a year. It just went by kind of fast. I give it a 7. It was all right. I'm ready for 2025, though. Ready for new things, new experiences, new doors to open.
The wishing wall is up in Times Square, too, where you can write your wishes for the new year on tiny pieces of paper that'll become confetti on New Year's Eve. I'm Lisa Ritchie for 77 WABC News.
Pantone has released its 2025 color of the year, and that's Mocha Mousse, apparently. The company describes the color as capturing a global mood of connection, comfort, and harmony. Health and self-care, hot topics on social media this year. According to the healthcare job search website, Solient Health, the most Googled health questions in 2024 include topics like whether bronchitis, pneumonia, or strep throat are contagious, and what is lupus. Americans also wanted to know how much water they should drink each day and what causes high blood pressure. The top 7 health questions ranged from 78,000 searches a month to 176,000 searches a month. Outbreaks of norovirus have been reported nationwide, and the CDC reports twice the amount of cases compared to past years. Norovirus, known widely as the stomach flu, is the main cause of diarrhea and vomiting from inflammation of the stomach, intestines, and gastroenteritis, according to the CDC. The week of December 5th, the CDC reported just over 90 cases of norovirus. That's more than double the highest number reported between 2021 and 2024. Universal Movie Studios has a big winner on its hands with Wicked. In fact, it just broke its own record.
Whoa, Mamma Mia, here I go again, my. Popular, you're gonna be popular.
Yeah, Universal Studios' Wicked adaptation has now surpassed its adaptation of Mamma Mia, becoming the largest stage musical adaptation ever globally. The film has brought in more than $634 million at the global box office, with much of it coming from domestic ticket sales. The founder of HBO has passed away.
Charles Dolan was a pioneer in cable broadcasting who started Home Box Office in 1972. He also founded Cablevision in 1973 and the American Movie Classics Channel in 1984. Dolan is also credited with starting the first 24-hour news channel in 1986, News 12 in New York. A statement from his family on Saturday said Charles Dolan has died of natural causes. He was 98 years old. I'm Jim Forbes.
And, of course, his son Jim Dolan continues to maintain ownership of the Rangers and Knicks. Authorities in Washington state say 2 men who were searching for the mythical Sasquatch have been found dead in the forest.
The Skamania County Sheriff's Office says the 2 men from Portland, ages 59 and 37, went hiking last week in Pinchot National Forest to search for the legendary Sasquatch and had planned to return home on Christmas Eve. A family member reported them missing on Christmas Day. After a 3-day search with the help of canines and drones, the men's bodies were found in a heavily wooded area, apparently dead from exposure. Deputies say the men faced difficult terrain and weather conditions and were ill-prepared for it. I'm Scott Carr.
Jimmy Carter, dead at the age of 100, the only U.S. president to reach that age. The former peanut farmer and Georgia governor became the 39th president of the U.S. from 1977 to 1981 after beating Republican incumbent President Gerald Ford in the 76 election. The Carter administration faced many challenges, including the 1979 oil shortage, which resulted in high gas prices and long lines in the U.S. He struggled, to say the least, to end the Iranian hostage crisis when students in Tehran seized the U.S. embassy and took 52 American hostages for 444 days. Many historians point to that as one of the biggest reasons behind his resounding defeat to Ronald Reagan in 1980. But after his presidency, Carter went on to become an active humanitarian. He worked with Habitat for Humanity and communities throughout Georgia and globally for nearly 40 years. He was also a 9-time Grammy nominee and a 2-time Grammy winner in the spoken word category. Carter awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2002 for his decades of conflict resolution work. A Los Angeles hotel made famous by the Doors has been burned in a fire. I'll keep your eyes on the road, you have to pound the wheel. The Morrison Hotel in downtown L.A. featured on the cover of the Doors' classic 1970 album of the same name. Last Thursday morning, the 110-year-old building was badly damaged by fire and smoke. The Los Angeles Fire Department says it took over 110 firefighters to put out the blaze. The 4-story building had no official occupants at the time, but a fire department spokesperson says several dozen individuals who appeared to be homeless were seen fleeing the building ahead of that fire. A Creedence Clearwater Revival song has passed 1 billion streams on Spotify. CCR frontman John Fogerty announcing on his social pages that Bad Moon Rising had reached that milestone. It's not the first song from Creedence to surpass 1 billion streams. Have You Ever Seen the Rain? And Fortunate Son, also in the billion stream club. WABC News Time, 5:59. James Flippin filling in for Noam Laden this morning. It'll be Curtis Sliwa and John Katsimatidis coming up in just a few minutes on Sid and Friends in the morning. Pope Francis is telling families to put away their cell phones at the dinner table and simply talk to one another. During his address yesterday, the Pope said dialogue is the most important element for a family, adding that a family that doesn't communicate cannot be a happy family. The Pope's address took place on the Feast of the Holy Family, which happens on the Sunday after Christmas. Pope Francis was back at St. Peter's Square after a bad cold, which forced him to deliver last week's address from his residence. WABC News Time, 6 a.m., as it's been the 5 a.m. news hour. James Flippin filling in for Noam Laden. Coming up in just a few minutes, Curtis Sliwa and 77 WABC owner-operator John Katsimatidis filling in for Sid Rosenberg on Sid and Friends in the morning.